Welcome to this explainer. Let's talk about a feeling we all know way too well. You know the one, you get a package in the mail or you look at your credit card statement at the end of the month and boom, this massive wave of buyer's remorse just washes right over you. You're looking at the item thinking, why on earth did I actually buy this? Well, I am so pumped you're here today because we're going to decode exactly why that happens. We're digging into the fascinating psychology behind our spending habits, using the latest insights to really understand our own minds.
Why did you click Buy Now? Seriously, I want you to picture that exact moment. You're staring at your screen, right? You know perfectly well you shouldn't buy the thing. Maybe your budget is super tight, maybe you already have a perfectly good version of it sitting in your closet, or you literally just have no space for it. Logic is screaming at you, stop, and yet almost like someone else is controlling your hand, you click Buy Now anyway. It is an incredibly frustrating feeling, isn't it?
Okay, let's dive into this, because we need to completely flip the script on how we usually talk about this problem. What you probably think it is, and honestly, what society constantly tells us it is a willpower problem. We tell ourselves we're just weak or we lack financial discipline. But what it actually is, as the research makes crystal clear, is human psychology. We are being driven by these deep biological and psychological forces that operate entirely underneath our conscious logical control. So today, we're going to stop blaming your willpower and start looking at how your brain is actually wired.
And that brings us to our first major driver of impulse shopping. Reason number one, chasing the dopamine high. It's all about anticipation over acquisition.
You see, when we strip away the logic, we find that it's actually a chemical reaction, not some calculated financial decision dictating our purchases. The dopamine release happens before you've even used the product. Just think about that for a second. It's not the actual having of the item that gives you the chemical rush, it's the getting of it. The very act of clicking Add to Cart or swiping your card triggers this massive dopamine release in your brain. Your brain is literally rewarding you for the anticipation. It feels incredibly good in the moment, completely regardless of whether you actually need the item or will ever use it once it arrives.
And, here's where it gets a little insidious. Retailers know exactly how our biology works. That is exactly why checkout is designed to be instant and frictionless. They are quite literally scheming against your rational brain. They design their online stores and their apps to capitalize directly on this biological dopamine response. By making the checkout process as incredibly fast and invisible as possible, they ensure you ride that dopamine wave right past your logical defenses before you even have a second to reconsider.
This builds directly into our second huge psychological factor, social status and emotion. Specifically, our innate need to belong.
We are inherently social creatures, wired by evolution to constantly observe and compare ourselves to our peer group. Back in the day, this was a survival mechanism. But in our modern consumer environment, that wiring gets us into a lot of financial trouble. When someone in our peer group gets an upgrade, maybe they get a brand new phone, a much nicer car, or just a fresh wardrobe, our brain doesn't just say, oh hey, nice for them. Now, it actually registers their upgrade as a social threat. It literally feels like we are falling behind the pack. So what do? We buy something similar. Making that purchase artificially restores our feeling of belonging, even if it's only temporary. We're essentially spending money just to feel safe in our social standing. Crazy, right?
Now, our third major driver isn't just about social threats. It's about our own internal emotional landscape. We call it retail therapy, which is spending money to get a short emotional lift from stress, boredom, sadness, or even happiness. But the absolute key takeaway from the research here is the second half of that definition. It solves absolutely nothing about the underlying feeling. If you're stressed at work, buying a new gadget doesn't fix your crazy workload. It just acts as a temporary mask. We are essentially using financial transactions to medicate our emotional states.
If all of that psychological pressure wasn't enough, we arrive at the fourth major reason we overspend, the painless payment trap, and how friction completely disappeared.
Over the last few decades, the physical friction, the actual tangible pain of paying, has completely vanished from our modern shopping environment. Just look at how fast this progression has happened. Think about cash. Handing over crisp bills physically hurts a little bit, right? You literally feel the money leaving your hand. It is a high-paying transaction. But then we move to card taps. Faster, way less tangible, then to UPI payments and digital wallets right on our phones. And now, one-click checkouts. Zero pain, absolutely frictionless. Moving from cash to one click means your brain registers far less pain when spending, making it terrifyingly easy to overspend without even noticing the money is gone until it's way too late. The barrier is just completely erased. So how on earth do we fight back? By adding friction back in and hacking your environment.
So the crucial point is this: we don't fight our brain, we hack our environment. We need to become deliberate and grounded in how we set up our digital and physical lives. We have to work with our psychological wiring instead of constantly trying to fight against it with sheer willpower. We need to add friction deliberately. First, use the 24-hour rule before any non-essential purchase. Just force that dopamine high to cool off. Second, go into your apps today and remove your saved card details. Force yourself to get up, find your wallet, and manually type in those numbers. That is adding the pain of paying right back into the equation. And third, unfollow accounts on social media that trigger that social comparison threat. If an influencer makes you feel like you're falling behind, just hit unfollow. None of these tactics rely on willpower. They physically change your environment, so your default behavior automatically becomes saving rather than spending.
Let's just take a deep breath here. Overspending isn't a character flaw. It really, truly isn't. The research is so clear on this, and I want to emphasize it because it is so incredibly important for all of us to internalize. You are not weak. Your brain is simply responding exactly as it was designed to respond to a modern world built specifically to exploit its natural wiring. Once you understand the psychology behind it, everything changes.
You can build a system that works for you rather than against you. Which brings me to my final question for you to ponder today. What friction will you add to your life today? Will you delete a saved credit card from your absolute favorite app? Will you institute the 24-hour rule starting right now? The psychology is completely in your hands now. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. I hope it empowers you to take back control, and I literally cannot wait to explore our next topic together.